Hello and welcome to TFT Worlds day number 2, game number 1. Enjoy.
Overall super well yesterday, starting off with a rod on this carousel that may be leaning a bit of an AP direction. I think from the games that we saw yesterday, Lilu did play some AP, so definitely gonna be comfortable going for that route.
Yeah, I'm excited as this lobby does have a couple of China players, and one thing that we did notice from previous games and also in the China regionals is that China has a playstyle that is a bit more greedy compared to the NA or EU. There is more open forwarding potentially. Not sure if they're going to do that strategy this time around, but I am curious to see if we'll get maybe another calculated loss. That would be really great to see. For those that weren't able to tune in yesterday, Huan Mie, another China player, did do calculated loss down to 13 HP and then went on to a 12 plus win streak perfectly for the rest of the game until they won. So I'm really excited to see if maybe the greedy playstyle will come back to this to game number 1.
Yeah, I mean, heart goes out to Huan Mie. They didn't make it into day 2, and that was, I think, really surprising. Both previous world champion winners did not make it into day 2, so this competition keeps on leveling up. Sure, it's just one day of TFT, and I myself a big proponent of you cannot make any, conclusive remarks out of that. You can't say those are, bad players by any means. Everyone is a fantastic player making it to the world championship, but sometimes gets away from you. But Lilo, first augment choice was going to be that phony frontline, a couple target dummies. It is not a voracious appetite mutant game though. It's going to be hyper adrenal glands. So yeah, if it was voracious appetite, oh yeah, those phony frontlines are fantastic because they will, once they die, give those stats over. But no, probably not too much mutant in this game. There is the opportunity for Yordles though, and going back to your point, Risa, about that greedy play style, yeah, playing Yordles in the early game is certainly a way to do that, and there is an opportunity here. There's Vex, there's a Lulu and a Poppy, and I think Lilo is going to be, gonna be tempted to run that. Is thinking about it though. What do you make of this?
Yeah, it's funny thing is the minute you mentioned phony frontline, I did just, my eyes immediately went to the top right of the screen just to double check what mutant we are looking at. But here, I think there was some complication of like, do they still level 3 and go for their loss streak, right? But you did hit the brand as well too, and brand is such a good item holder for a AP composition pivot later on that Arcanist here along with the Poppy, this is a pretty decent board. But going against Huan Wan right now, who does have Ezreal 2 with 2 items ready and scrap ongoing, so it's not looking too hot right now for Lilo, but again, I think China works really well with losing in the early games too, so this isn't anything to be surprised about.
No, nothing to be surprised about. That brand might have been able to secure a bit of a win streak, but no, not against that Ezreal, especially with scrapping into an item like a Shiv. It's just going to be really good in the early game, especially synergizing with the Rage Blade. But yeah, a lot of players playing these Yordles early game. We see a Scrap Heart as well, and that's going to make bringing it back to compositions that run scrap, obviously Sivir does that. 6 scrap is a huge comp. You don't even need Sivir in that. You could just play a Jinx style if you're able to especially go fast 8, fast 9, play your legendaries with 6 scrap, buffing all of that up. Megumin, however, is going to be playing early innovators and has that second wind as well. Second wind is pretty decisive of an augment choice. Some players think it is, pretty solid. Some players think it's not really that great. You just kind of take it because there's nothing else good to run. But Megumin is playing very flexible right now, not slamming any of these items, which, yeah, is correct from this position. You don't want to slam early game Quicksilver Sash. It's just not going to be good enough, but it does leave their options open, and Innovator can certainly help with that as well.
Yeah, so for those who are not as familiar with second wind, that is when after a certain amount of time has passed, your units will heal back up. So as you mentioned, not the strongest augment, but it is something to stabilize, and it's not the worst either. So Megumin here taking the win against Lilo. So we mentioned this before, Lilo probably going for a losing streak here along with the Yordles, really good spot. Versus Megumin here does have Innovator, which is not bad, but only hitting the Alawi 2 and holding some Tryndameres in the back line. And hitting a sack now though, and the Singe potentially transitioning to Chemtech, and I'm curious to see if there's going to be more Tryndamere players happening today.
Yeah, Milk did it once yesterday, obviously saying to the whole tournament, every single player, that hey, this is a comp that can work. Obviously if you get a good spot for it, it's going to be fine. Megumin doesn't necessarily, or isn't necessarily in a position where that's going to be, what's jumping out at you. It's like, oh, play reroll Tryndamere. Like, no, that almost never happens. But it is an option depending on what they find on Carousel, depending on what their next few shops are. However, for Zabroyson here, we know the direction. Striker Heart, you get, yeah, you're going to go in that direction for the whole game. Zabroyson's game plan is already pretty much figured out. Now it is kind of up to what you said earlier. You can't just go into a game, be like, I'm going to play Sivir, click on the striker scrap units and have it work out, right? The early game is always really, really important. And we see that Zabroyson is not going on that much of a streak or any streak at all, right? It was a win, loss into a win. This early game econ has been damaged, barely being able to make it up to 10 gold here. They may be in a position where they're forced to roll down to level 7. And we saw many instances yesterday where players roll it down on 7 for the Sivir composition, only hit Sivir 1, and then just still go out in the bottom 4. I think, there was one instance of a player who passed up on that Draven 2, hard to the Sivir, ended up going 8th. So that can definitely happen to a player, even like Zabroyson, if they're not careful here in this game.
Yeah, 100%. So, granted, S plus tier composition and your mind will just want to go for it, right? But when there are 2-3 players contesting it, and it's going to be contested, that is something to always be aware of, to play through your early and mid game differently in order to ensure that if by chance you don't hit that Sivir 2 at the same time as your competitors, you played early and mid so well that it buys you enough time, right? So here,
Yeah.
with the fact that they did have the Striker augment, it does seem very likely that they have a better chance of getting a comp online before others. But we have also seen this augment being chosen before and just never hit. But hopping over to Milk Guy here, who is going mutant.
I love this. Hyper Adrenal Glands Mutant Augment is the one time where you can actually make an AD Cho'Gath carry work out, and I think that is exactly what Milk is doing here. The Bloodthirster is already there. You get things like a Runans, Rage Blade on it, and this Cho'Gath can very much find its way into some big success in making top 4s. Milk did lose the first few rounds of this game, but it seems like now pushing to 5, having this 5 mutant buff, yeah, these mutants are attacking very, very quickly. Those extra auto attacks are proccing Cho'Gath, and all of them get such huge benefit from it. I am very, very excited. This is not what you would expect out of Milk from hearing his thoughts going into the tournament, right? Milk was like, oh, I'm going to play Sivir because it is the strongest, but Milk is still a flexible player no matter how he wants to, have you perceive him as. He's willing to go these more unorthodox directions if he has the opportunity for it, and he very much does right now.
Milk is a player that I absolutely love watching, where Milk said to himself that he wants to just play Sivir, and maybe with some stronger mutant synergies, he may go for that one as well. So I'm curious to see if there's even a world where the Sivir shows up, Milk might just transition back to the Sivir. But as you mentioned though, we are on Adrenal Glands mutant trait, which is one of those ones where, yeah, Bloodthirster does work on the Cho'Gath. For those who are unaware, it's basically where the mutant's basic chance have a higher chance to trigger 2 additional basic attacks. So some additional healing over there for that Cho'Gath there as it's trying to take down this Alawi, and that's really close there. I'm not taking another hit from Megumin.
That's really unfortunate loss as well, not able to chain 2 win streak going into the Krugs as well. Milk could have pushed to level 6, maybe found a Cho'Gath too and kept that streak going, but no, that econ is going to be hurting from that. No player is going to be, it seems like, full loss streaking. Lilo may have and taken some good losses along the way, but no one is really down there like in the 60 HP or anything. Kwang Lan is the only player win streaking at this point, and this is exactly what we expect, coming from yesterday. Kwang Lan was able to play a very solid early to mid game, and sure, their power level is going to, taper off in the end game. They're going to go out in, as yesterday is suggested, either exactly 3rd or 2nd, but still that's going to be good enough of a playstyle to make it into the final day. Moving now over to Lucas, one of Brazil's representatives. They came through this tournament from the last chance qualifier, ended up getting 1st in that, and they've been playing super well yesterday. I think they're going to keep it forward into today. Yeah, we do have it. We had to at some point. seeing our first
I
taste
wonder
of
what they'll
Sivir.
pivot to.
Pivot? What do you mean?
No, yes, there is the Last Whisper and the Gwynzoos on the Sivir here. So I believe there's one other competitor that we know that was leaning towards Sivir with the Striker augment, but I'm curious to see if there is a third. If there is just two Sivir players, you're feeling pretty good about it. But when there are 3 players contesting it, that's when you're scouting around trying to see when is the best time to roll. Especially if you see Quanlong already holding 1 Sivir, you're gonna have that a little bit of fear of wanting to make sure that you get your earlier roll at level 7, or spending some additional gold just to ensure that you find it before the odds keeps going down. But yeah, Quanlong here, very strong. As mentioned before, they're one of the rare players that, or only player actually, that never bottom 4 or bottom 5 even. They top 3 all their games. They have yet to get a first place though in any of their games from day 1. But with that said, that doesn't really matter right now in day number 2. You just really need to top 4 in order to get to the finals.
Definitely playing that style really, really well. I think they're going to keep it up, especially with that opener. I would not expect Quanlong to drop out in the bottom 4 of this game, especially with so many other players. It seems like going to go that same, or really similar direction, right? There is Rage Blades, there's Zeke's, there's a similar thing on Lilu's board on the other side right now. 2 of our Chinese representatives going up against each other. Lilu is carrying a loss streak forward. Now they have a Senate carry, which is not the best thing in the world, and it's certainly not going to be good enough to beat Lilu's 4 scrap Yordle opener. This is a really, really strong opener because not only does it have board strength with the 4 scrap and the Ezreal holding these items, but it also still farms economy every single turn with these Yordles. Now as we get to our second augment phase, back foot is really, really good for this spot. But the other options are item grab bag or cybernetic uplink. Solid options, but probably it's going to be back foot here, I would imagine.
Yeah, but the one thing that I do want to point out is that a lot of players that we scatter around that we already saw has the Gwynzoos or Last Whisper and also Zeke, so all of that, granted, can go into any of the AD composition, but there are many folks that are probably leaning towards Sivir, so it's looking to be a pretty contested lobby. So Crow, in your expertise here, if you see something like this, granted, in your roll down, if you see Sivir, you're going for Sivir. But what type of other carries might you look for in order to transition out? Because obviously, there's not going to be enough Sivir to go around for all the players.
Yeah, definitely. I think the one on top of my mind with the Rage Blade already built would be Draven. Or if we're looking at, maybe going a fast 8, which I think Louis Lee can go from this position, a Kaisa perhaps, or a Jinx, right? You can still run that Jinx just on her own as a carry, still go into the scraps, maybe some twin shots from there. So I think all of those that I just named would be very phenomenal carries. But if you're in a position where you have to roll on 7, I think it might be that Draven. Yeah, it's just Zeke's and Last Whispers everywhere, even from BCLF. This lobby is going to be really interesting because I think it goes back to that point I made earlier about players, being rigid in their playstyle, being stubborn. Who is going to actually be forced to, pivot into these maybe suboptimal from their point of view carries, because someone is going to have to.
Yeah, it is pretty surprising that we're seeing so many common items already built, the exact same ones throughout, I would say, half the lobby already, minimally. But yeah, I think pivoting here is important. I do think that the folks that are... There's 2 ways. Either you're incredibly stubborn, right? And you're like, I'm going to be one. Quanlong doesn't need to be stubborn. They already hit a Sivir. They're guaranteed to be one of the ones going it. But everyone else here now has 2 choices, right? Be stubborn, push for it, and hope that everyone else pivot, or be flexible about it and be one of the first people to pivot out of it, so that you're able to capitalize and not just use up all your gold looking for that Sivir, passing on Draven to use along the way that we saw yesterday with the tunnel vision, and just end up having such a weak board against everyone else. So I'm actually very excited to see, now that we do see a lot of Zeeks and Last Whispers online, on what different compositions that you can really see that AD can go into.
Yeah, definitely. Without the Rage Blade raid, I think that even leaves your options a lot more open. I think Jhin can become a consideration, and there were multiple compositions yesterday that did feature a Jhin, whether it be with 4 snipers and throw Zeri into the mix, or with innovators, right? Some comps even push to 7 innovators running a Jhin. Goobums, even just for the preparation for this event, really was starting to solidify that 4 clockwork, 5 innovator playstyle with Jhin. So that's certainly going to be on players' minds going into day number 2 if it wasn't already with all the prep work that they had, because there's so much information that every single player had, right? Doing their research, coming from that those scrims and the mock tournament leading into this event. But not only that, the players after day number 1 got a chance to, watch the VODs back, look, reset, know who's in their lobby going into tomorrow, and know their specific play style. So these players already have such a fantastic read on the trends of other players. It could be a sort of game of, chicken of, oh yeah, who's going to be the one to pivot first? Some players are more known for being the one to pivot, being the one to be more flexible, and some are more rigid, dare I say, Milk, but Milk is already going in a totally different direction, so don't need to really, keep on beating that point through. But moving back over to Zebroyson, they have now, with the scrap heart, a striker heart as well. Still needs to find the Sivir. I mean, it comes back to that, right? But the augments are extremely leaning in that direction. Not in a fantastic spot, though. Has decent economy. Is going to be able to go level 7 very, very soon on, Wolves or 4-1. But when are they going to roll, right? How greedy are they going to be? Are they going to try to greed out until, level 8 at 4-5 after the stage 4 carousel? They would be maybe 30 HP or less if they do that.
So definitely shout out to Broyson here as the other Sivir player, or at least the direction of a Sivir player that stands out. Granted, all their augments right now fits perfectly for it, and already having 4 strikers and 4 scraps online. I would have to say when the items showed up, there are 3 Seeks online, 3 Last Whispers, and 3 Gwynsues when it showed up a few rounds ago. So yep. One thing I really hope to see, probably not in this lobby, there's hope, but with the items given, I think everyone's leaning more towards AD, is that there are AP compositions right now that can compete against these comps, and we have seen them yesterday and getting first places. I know there are some Ari that could be a little bit unique due to her targeting, but definitely a viable comp along with Renata as well if you have some blue buffs. So I'm curious to see if more AP items drop and if there are any pivots, or even Kha'Zix, to be honest, with some good positioning and targeting only tier 1 Sivers. Kha'Zix is a very flexible unit that can take over and get into the top 4 as well.
Definitely, Kha'Zix Flex, especially with the Last Whisper paired with him, you're able to put things like Edge of Night, Bloodthirster, IE, all fantastic items that are these AD, or focused around these AD trees, right? But who's going to be going the AP direction? Kwang Lan has the blue battery, but we already know found the early game Sivir. Megumin, as we were talking about earlier, would they go the direction of Tryndamere? It looks like the answer was, in fact, yes. I'm not sure if it's going to be a Tryndamere reroll because they don't have a lot of gold. There's a very low chance this keeps being a Tryndamere, or at least it's going to get to a Tryndamere 3. But it might just be playing for, a 5th place sort of game for Megumin, and sometimes that's about as good as you can get. The Tryndamere is very strong right now, but is going up against boards like Lilo's, who have still 50 gold. They haven't power spiked, but oh, what a shop there. Going to find a Sivir and a Jace, going level 8 on 4-2, but having less than 10 gold to roll with. Not gonna really find too much because of that, unfortunately. Maybe, okay, rolls into Irelia 2 at least, but has to sell something for it. It's going to be selling those poppies, puts the Jace in for a frontline, but yeah, not great frontline for this board, Risa.
Yeah, Lilo at this point is definitely using up all their gold. Granted, this lobby is very contested, going similar comps as them, so they need to at least get an extra unit in. That Irelia 2 was big for them to try to stabilize a little bit so that they can make it to stage 5. And also, later on, I do want to shout out any Tryndamere players. Any unique composition is something that I am all for, but going against Lily right now, who still has Ezreal, who is destroying, but is going to get taken out by these 6, and Lily taking a hit, and Lulu stabilizing just a little bit for spending the gold, but we'll see if it's enough to keep his 20 plus HP, all the way through stage 4.
Let's see, as each roll comes through, right, are they going to find the Jinx? Are they going to find that Sivir too? Is not happening then. And it does look like Milk has pivoted away from at least that Cho'Gath carry, but is making it work for a Kha'Zix, right? The Kha'Zix is still going to be really, really good with these mutants, but he's on a great spot, right? 8 losses in a row, rolling down to level 8, has not found a Kha'Zix 2 yet. this is pretty disastrous for Milk, forced to play 2 Kha'Zix 1s, one of them with no items, has a Silco, sure, but even the Malzahar is still tier 1. This is not what I would have expected with seeing Milk's early game and how it played out here.
It's definitely a shame. I'm really excited for the fact that they are going Kha'Zix. The one thing that is good is that since there are so much Sivers player in this lobby, there is a lot of Silver 1s and not any Silver 2s. So this Kha'Zix, even though it's only a tier 1 right now, it's still killing units, and the minute if Milk is able to get its tier 2 Kha'Zix earlier, while everyone else is struggling to tier 2 their Silver, there's a good chance that Milk can come back up. So really hoping that once they are done with the neutral rounds, they can come back and find that Kha'Zix too.
Definitely. Unfortunately, no Kha'Zix in this carousel. Does grab a bow though, so will be able to play for a 3rd Kha'Zix item. Already has that Malzahar with 3 items, which wants to turn into a Kaisa, but Milk's level 8 rolls have, definitely not gone his way. This is the 9th loss in a row, but I think you bring up a great point. That is with everybody else, not hitting their tier 2 carries. If Milk is able to, as the rolls keep coming through here, and he finds that Kha'Zix 2 that would be able to allow him to stabilize, but going to just check the right-hand side to see if that does come through. Lucas, however, 6 bruisers, and still is running a Caitlyn carry, but the HP is not bad for it, honestly. Alright, now we find a Renata at least, but there are not great Renata items here. In fact, none of the quote-unquote best-in-slot Renata items. She's just in there for, some extra damage, that 2 Scholar buff as well. Lucas has a long way to go, but it's not a terrible board, especially if this Tahm Kench is able to somehow farm some items that can really shore up Lucas's kind of a board weakness gap here.
Yeah, for a Renata composition, the most important item for her is going to be the Morellos, and then it would be blue buffs. As you mentioned, neither is there right now. There is that Giant's Belt on that Tahm Kench, but I'm not quite sure if Lucas is feeding them. They probably will be, so with that said, that Giant's Belt probably will be staying on. But looking into the 3rd augment here, we have Weak Spot 2, Portal Forge, and the Cybernetic Implant. Taking on to the orange one though, Eternal Winter, Manazane, and also Death's Defiance. It's either the 2nd or 3rd one, but oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Death's Defiance. My prediction was very off on that one.
Yeah, that's very interesting because I definitely think it was a good read of, Lucas needs some more items, so that's why the Portable Forge choice came through here. The front line is already good enough with the 6 bruisers, and that's gonna be why that Eternal Winter wasn't chosen, but Death's Defiance isn't going to be a fantastic choice there. I think that was a little bit low roll of Lucas and was kind of just taking the best of a bad situation there. Not that it's terrible, right? It's going to enable a carry to, if they get jumped on by things like a Kha'Zix or anything like that, they have more staying power, they're able to get their damage off. It might go on something like a Victor a bit later. I think that's what Lucas wants to pivot into, but I don't believe I've seen one yet. It will just be a Zeri carry for now, but no Debonair, no Sniper, and gets jumped on by an Echo with a Frozen Heart. Sure, she's Zeri, so she's going to be dashing away from it, but I'm not sure that Zeri is going to be able to output enough damage. Hopefully the tankiness will be enough that Death's Defiance goes on Tahm Kench for now, hopefully farming some more items, but is it going to be able to? Looks like the answer is no, and this is a pretty big loss here for Lucas. That is 7 units. And they're going to be starting to take some big hits now as we end stage 4 and look at stage 5. But there's the Victor. The pivot is happening. That's exactly what Lucas needed.
Exactly. So, wanted to mention on the order items as well, Death's Defiance is a item that allows you to heal for 20% of the damage dealt by basic attacks and abilities. Manazane does give you some mana, and they restore about 150 mana, I believe, over 4 seconds after the spells are being cast. And Eternal Winter is just a very tanky item that slows down enemy attacks. So, with that said, did you agree with the Death Defiance's choice?
I would have really actually, I think, liked to see Manazane there. It would have really synergized with the Victor, I think, really, really well. The Death Defiance and the Tahm Kench. It has a higher cap, I think, but if they want power in the immediate future, which I think Lucas probably needs, would have leaned towards the Manazane, although it is kind of hindsight because you know that they did roll into the Victor, and if they didn't, right, the Manazane would have been not necessarily a dead item, but not very useful. So I can't say I blame that choice from that position, but it still makes sense. But looking back over to Megumin's board, the Tryndamere is still here, and 2 Tryndameres away from that Tryndamere 3. I thought this board was going to be a bit too weak to get to the spot, but I was proven wrong. Tryndamere is pretty solid for Challenger 5 Chemtech board, and is on a 5-win streak, and I think that Draven in the backline with the Last Whisper is doing a lot of the work as well, a lot of the heavy lifting. It's not going to be able to do enough, though, as we look at Lucas, the Victor being online. Yes, that board is where it wants to be, and Megumin is going to be forced to have to roll down all of this gold here very soon. If they hit Tryndamere 3, fantastic. They can go into the top 4, but Risa, we already have our first elimination, and it is Milk taking an 8th in game number 1. And that's not necessarily uncharacteristic for Milk. He plays a very volatile first-rate style, but didn't expect it or hope it to be an 8th, but wow, Megumin hits.
Megumin, so the thing with Tryndamere, these are actually really good items. What you really want with Tryndamere is about 2 sustainable items and their damage items. So you have Bloodthirster to give the life steal, and then you have Titans for the extra tankiness, and then IE is just a really good item. Tryndamere is very item reliant, so they do have 3 of the best in slot items for Tryndamere here. So we're gonna see them targeting the Echo right now, the Frozen Heart, getting knocked out, not amazing, but is going to spin now straight onto the Sivir. So that is something you'd love to see, but now it's Tryndamere against the world, trying its best to go against everyone. Tanking it up though, there is the second wind that healed up a little bit. He's still spinning, he's going for it. Keep going, Tryndamere, you got this, buddy. Took out the Frozen Heart, and I believe this is going to be a win for Megumin as he finally gets over to the Ziggs.
Oh man, that is such a powerful Tryndamere there, actually able to 1v9. If that was Tryndamere 2, would not have happened that way, but it is a Tryndamere 3 diff. Megumin in a solid spot, especially with a Zephyr as well. They have that future sight, so they always know who they're going to be matching up against. We know it's going to be Kwang Lon in the next round. If they're able to hit a good Zephyr, buy time for Tryndamere to kill off most of the board and be in these 1v5, 1v9 situations, Tryndamere can do what we just saw there for multiple rounds. Megumin in a very solid spot, and yes, we see that round up against Kwang Lon, who has hit Sivir 2, 3 really strong items, has a Jinx as well, but it is only Jinx 1. The difference is Kwang Lon sitting on 50 gold. This board is not as strong as it could be. Oh, that Quinn disarm. So good. It does stop Sivir for a while, but she still survives, but not for too long. Tryndamere dominance here. Milk shows it on day 1, but Megumin is showing it on day 2. Put this comp on the map. Reroll Tryndamere has certainly put itself in the conversation in this World Championship.
That second win is actually doing a lot of work for that Tryndamere too. I know it's very minute, but with the fact that you're really trying to get that lifesteal to get going just for a little bit longer, that lifesteal or that second win given to that Tryndamere has been doing the job. We did see it. It was a little bit close on this one. It went onto the Sivir, which was such a nice feeling, but it did spin away as she was down to 100 HP, making a much closer fight. So that would be the only complaint about Tryndamere, is that it gets to the backline really quickly, but can it finish off the carry in time before he spins away again? So it worked out for Megumin. Really excited to see how he fares. Kwang Lon was one of the players that did have a early Sivir and did end up finding a Striker emblem as well as one of their augments. Having this Jinx here is really strong for them. I see Kwang Lon, again, a player that I think is highly expert at what they're doing, especially with the fact that they were top during every single game, and I don't want to see this streak to end here.
Definitely not. Kwang Lon is playing this game really well. They actually already have this Rek'Sai 2 just sitting on the bench waiting to go in, but the one missing unit is going to be an Irelia. They could go up to that 6 Striker, giving Sivir so much AD that she benefits from really well, especially with items like the, all of them actually, Last Whisper, the Rage Blade, the Brutans as well. There's no defensive items here, but she might not need them if she just does enough raw damage, and yeah, it looks like it even versus Lucas's Kaisa. Wow, drops Lucas all the way down to 6 HP. Kwang Lon's board can still get even better, so the rest of the lobby should be really scared, but looking at the HPs, no one is running away with this game, Risa. It is really close. There is, even between first and 6th, just a 19 HP gap. This lobby could really go anyone's way at this point.
100%. 100%. And look at Lilo's board here. At first, you're like, oh, only a Sivir 1? But 8 win streak? Oh, there's a triple Zeeks there next to that Sivir.
Oh, yeah.
So Zeeks is definitely an item that the more you stack, the more attack speed you're giving to your carry. So this Sivir 1, if it ever gets to a Sivir 2, it'll be unstoppable. But for the time being, even as a Sivir 1, these Zeeks are doing work. You're gonna see how fast that Sivir is attacking right off the bat. The Aurelia taking off the Echo from the back line. Both Sivers are going at it, but one is faster than the other. We'll see. They're both going towards each other right now, but it's a Sivir. Ooh, that was so close, actually. The Narv tanking enough, though, to take the victory over Lilo.
That was super close of a fight, and if that was a Sivir 2 or level 9 board, that would have gone the other way there. But just flashing back a little bit, Lilo's spot, all of their augments and items were perfect, right? They got more components out of that component grab bag, meaning they could have that triple Zeke's Aurelia, meaning they could have that blue buff Jace buffing the Sivir attack speed, and just have her able to go wild. Even the Phony front line there provides the front line that was severely lacking on that board, which is why that fight was even so close in the first place. Going over to Luili's board here, it's gonna be more of the same, right? But 6 scrap. They got a scrap heart and a scrap crest, scrapping the Gnar, being able to make that use out of the spare sword. The Irelia one is there. There's only so many Irelias and Sivirs to go around, but they're level 9, still rolling it down. A Silco might go in, a Tahm Kench too, but is it gonna go in? Wow, it actually is with the Gunblade. I mean, that's a fantastic item, best in slot item for this Tahm Kench, but he's not benefiting from any synergies, right? No bruiser. It's just gonna be there as maybe just something to farm more items, farm some gold, maybe more gold to roll into that Sivir eventually, right?
Yeah, I mean, Tahm Kench in general, any legendary 2 at this point, especially when you have 3 other players that are going similar comp, you're taking whatever you can get to give you a little bit of the edge. So this Tahm Kench here, so far not attacking any of the units that have an item, but going so live, nope, got some gold and no items, unfortunately for this one. But I do agree with you that if this Tahm Kench is able to start eating some of the units that do have items, the components is going to make a big difference between their board versus the enemies later on.
Yeah, definitely. The one worrying thing is that this Tahm Kench obviously just got on the board, so it's not like this Tahm Kench has gotten food for the past, stage or stage and a half. The stats are going to be very weak on that. The Gunblade hopefully doing a bit of a work there, and eventually this Tahm Kench will at least pay for itself, right? It farmed, I think it was 4 or 5 gold in that last fight, but hopefully more as we do move forward. Lilo going up against Luili here. I mean, it's Sivir versus Sivir, both Sivir 1s. The triple Zeke's Jace board definitely has the advantage.
I do want to call out that all 3 China players in this lobby did go Sivir. Granted, this is not a team region tournament, but that is something unique to see, that everyone from the same region is going to the same competition. Everyone has a different style, though. We do see here this one's a triple Zeke's with a Jace, while on the enemy side is a 6 scrap version, and I believe with Kwang Guan, they also have the Jinx online. So there is some variation between these 3 Sivers, but oh, there we go. They hit the Sivir 2, and I think right now, if I have to say, we haven't seen Kwang Guan's board in a bit, and potential to go against them, or Megumin with the Tryndamere, but I do feel like Lilo's board is significantly stronger now with the triple Zeeks onto this tier 2 Sivir.
Oh, 100%. The Frozen Heart Echo, the fact that his funny front line is getting stronger as the game goes on as well, providing extra front line. Oh, but Megumin's board is so good here. Having the items on Renata now to apply the anti-heal and get multiple casts off, a fantastic Zephyr as well from Megumin. That is that future sight coming into play. That Tryndamere, though, as you said, is going to spin away from the backline. Can Sivir take it out, or will Tryndamere be able to heal back up? The second win has already came through. Can he sustain? Yes, it looks like it. Sivir goes down, and so does Lilo. Tryndamere making it into the top 4 yet again. How far can this go? Milk took it yesterday to a top 3, but honestly, Megumin's in a spot where this potentially could go into a first place finish. It still has to go up against 3 Sivir boards, however. VCLF also running Sivir. I think it was, 5 players trying to run Sivir this game? 3 of them, however, have made it into the top 4, along with the Tryndamere, who is currently on a win streak, sitting at the top.
Lilo was also a Sivir player, so honestly, we all know who we're rooting for this game here. Megumin with the Tryndamere, taking out 1 Sivir player already, 3 more to go. So one thing is, that Sivir was actually a little bit scary for me, because although it was perfect on Sivir and it is the right play, when Tryndamere did its first spin, it did not go onto Sivir because it was still being Sephired. And so Sivir got to live a little longer, but there is also a question, if they didn't Sepher it, Tryndamere may not have killed him anyways, and so I'm curious to see how this fares out. So right now, Kwonwan going against the support here, the other Sivir portion, both have the Frozen Heart. Echo with a Jinx too though, not yet ulted, stunned in the backline, finally coming out. And not doing too much damage. It's life stealing as best as could, but that Sivir in the back line for Lili is just holding on and takes out Kwonwan.
Wow, Kwonwan dropping with the Sivir 2 and with a Jinx 2 there. Not what I expected, especially with Lili having only a Sivir 1 and a Irelia 1 and Jinx 1 at the time. It was a huge jump on by the Echo, right? Applying that Frozen Heart. Also that Braum positioning as well, fantastic. But I think actually this Tahm Kench is doing a lot of work. It's even in the Socialite Hex as well. It's having a lot of time to walk forward, take out key units, farm some gold, and farm more items, right? That's why Lili now does have a Zephyr to work with. It's going to be only Zephyring a Jace 1, but still. Oh, that allows the Blitzcrank to hook the enemy Sivir.
This fight here is going to be a close one. We do have Ziggs on both sides of the board. Denari is jumping onto the backline now, finally out of Zephyr form. There is an Edge of Night going off, but does not take much out, and VCLA taking a hit here. Megumin is still fighting a ghost, unsure what they're fighting for, but takes the win. I am definitely keeping an eye out on Megumin, the player that I'm holding on. They do have the highest health, so very good chance that even if it is a double takedown, that they could get second over third, but we'll have to see. I do think this Tahm Kench has brought in some value, getting some extra gold for the roll downs to get that tier 2 Sivir, once more Sivir players were taking out. Another Ziggs for Megumin. Actually, I'd say another, just because we saw so many Ziggs, but first Zeke for Megumin here.
Yeah, there was actually another Zeke's in the Herald for Lili. So, yeah, another Zeke's going on the Irelia there. So Megumin gets the first Zeke's. The players built Zeke's in the early game, and, the Rift Herald got the notice that, you all like Zeke's? I like Zeke's too. Here you go, have it. There was a Reforger on the bench if, that wasn't going to be what Megumin wanted, but this is good enough item to not need to Reforge. Still rolling down for it, maybe going to, find these Quins. It's not going to happen, but that's okay. The board is, actually going to be taking out the Vi, it looks like there. Playing 6 Challenger.
Does so much work, actually. I know Quinn looks like... I feel like Quinn is a very underrated unit. It doesn't seem like the type to do a lot of damage, but the minute it gets a CC on, it actually does so much in saving your unit's health. So, Zephyr goes into a sack here, which is pretty good for Megumin. The Tryndamere is in the backline on that Jinx right now, but Jinx gets to fly out, and oh no, the Tryndamere just got absolutely destroyed. Megumin... No, taking out a 3rd place.
Third place once again for the Tryndamere. It was destined, it feels like, but it had the potential and almost made it into a first. If it was just a little bit slower for these other Sivir boards to get online, it definitely could have, but this is going to be the final fight of game number 1. Risa, first place would feel so good for these players to get on the board early. These boards are looking super similar, but it does depend on 2 very important things: Zephyrs, Echo Jumps, and Braum casts right now. So what's going to happen here?
Looking at it from VCLF's board, Braum really good position in front line with the Frozen Heart. There is a Zephyr that went on to Seraphine. Both Sivir are doing massive damage, still untouched yet in the backline. Who will get to the other Sivir first? The Tahm Kench is still taking things up, eating folks up, and Luli taking the win over VCLF.
So this is the end of game 1. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next game.